3 is the future.
Welcome, crew, to What Are Your Three, a Channel 3 podcast where we take a member of the Channel 3 community, discuss 3 games of their choosing, go through some honorable mentions and some other odds and ends for a nice little video game discussion. You like how I messed with my inflection on that one, Ray? You just change it up a little bit, mix it up.
It's exciting. I mean, this is exciting stuff.
That's my way to kick it over to Ray.
Something new every single night. What's going on, everybody? Today's guest is the better half. The better half. We've had half the duo on. Obviously, it's about time we get the better half here. One of my favorite people to actually watch on stream as well. And I think she comments every single time I stream amazingly. It is gamerveranza, gamerv herself. How are you doing tonight?
Welcome. Thank you so much for having me. And I will always say that I am not the better half. I am just the psycho half. So
better psycho. Who's words?
It's
words meanings. What does it mean?
Other. So, but doing well, and thank you again for having me on.
I mean, it's about time we had you on. I mean, I'm gonna call this a failure on dance part to have it be recorded episode 70 to get you here. I'm gonna blame Dan for this one.
I'm just glad that Ray was paying attention because I changed the numbers, because when this will be like a month after we did the Geo A Kid Again podcast, which I just shoved into the middle of 4 other episodes that ended up being 66. This was going to be 69. Now it's 70. Now there's 2 others that were recorded. The numeric system's a mess. The spreadsheet's a mess. I got to take time and clean all that up. But Ray's on it. He's paying attention to our notes, and he is aware, as much as he's being disturbed by his webcam right now.
I was going to say, this is going to be really exciting if this one gets on video as my camera continuously tries to focus. I don't know what it's trying to focus on.
I think it's segueing for me into Fatal Frame, a game about a camera.
Let's go with that.
So we're gonna use that as a segue, and we're going to talk about the 4.0 rated Fatal Frame. The other funny part about this, again, is as V were jumping all over the place, this will actually, funny enough, we will have gone 68 episodes without having talked about this game, and then weirdly enough, 2 very different people are going to be talking about this game for 2 weeks in a row, which is not a bad thing. We've had plenty of games. Mario Kart is a title holder in the we're going to talk about this game category, but Fatal Frame, which I will jokingly the first thing I have to ask is, I'll start with, how did this end up in your gaming history, and why is it number 1 that we're talking about?
So Fatal Frame is actually the video game that got me into video gaming. Back in the early 2000s, I was at a friend's house when I lived away at college, and we had come back from, I think it was an independent wrestling show that we went to, and we didn't want to go to bed or anything, and he had an emulator that would burn every video game that ever came out onto a disc, and you could play it on the original Xbox. So we were flipping through the book, and he says, "Oh, I wonder what this Fatal Frame game is." Fell in love with it immediately. I don't know why, because I do not like scary games. I do not do this. If you've ever watched me stream, I'm like the happy-go-lucky cozy game.
Yeah, so the cozy is the word for that, yes.
Cozy. Oh, hello, sir. We do have a co-visitor, Mr. Nargacuga.
The guest appearance has been made.
The guest appearance has been made because mommy is doing something and not paying attention to him. And that means all of my diamonds are. But it's also the reason I can't play video games with a vibrator, with the controller.
Glad we cleared that up for the family show.
I'm going to clarify that one up real fast.
So the controller, why?
There is a part in the game that it's into a cutscene, and all of a sudden it just starts, and there's a slight vibration. And then it's nothing, and you hear things. And he had surround sound in his basement at this time. So I'm hearing weird things over here on this side of me.
I assume in the pitch black, as should be
in
expected.
the pitch black, 2 a.m. in the morning, in a basement, playing this game on like the biggest, thickest TV that you have in the early 2000s. And it vibrates a little bit more. And it vibrates a little bit more. And then all of a sudden the jump scare happens in the game. And the controller goes full-fledged through the controller. At that point, I was like, done.
Throwing holy water on the Xbox controller just for good measure.
It was 100% that. But it was that game that, like, nowadays I hyper-focus on a game. Back then I didn't. I would play anything and everything you gave me, but it was never like something that caught my attention. That was the first game that I remember that I was like, I am never going to stop playing video games.
So
and it scares me.
So you're just flipping through probably some discs that just have titles on there. You know, it's not even like you're not even judging a book by its cover, right? Because this was definitely a judge a book by its cover game. As it's dark, it's creepy, it's got the font that's kind of confusing. You're looking at just a Sharpie that says Fatal Frame on it.
That was it.
And what else? Do you remember anything else that was in there that like later you came back to and said like, oh, I this was here? Like, I'm just curious what you passed to get to that then.
So it was I did do Phantasy Star. I played that for a while.
Very different vibe.
Very different game. And it was also another game that I had sunk hundreds of hours into with them. But that was more like I played it and then Fatal Frame, but it was something about Fatal Frame that like triggered in my mind that because it was so different from like Mario that I played growing up or The Sims or anything like that. It was just something different that I went, oh wow, there's a different genre.
There's an entirely different
that I'm never going to play ever again.
Yeah, it's an entirely different color palette. You weren't even in the ballpark of
not even in the ballpark.
There's games other than The Sims? Are you serious?
Oh yeah, well, back in the early 2000s, I think that was it for me. But it was that, like I said, it was just that one game that I vividly remember just being so immersed into that I remember, like, there's games that you've played in the past that you remember the general idea of it. You know, it's like, okay, I remember I did XYZ, but I vividly remember details of the original Fatal Frame in ways that I don't for any other game. And that is what I think stuck in my mind as it being number one. That reminded me, this is why I play video games. This is why I'm going to play video games for the rest of my life.
What are some of those things that stick out?
And I'm playing the newest one on the Switch right now, but it's the way that they actually use tension, but also how they put that into how the gameplay is. So one of the big things is opening doors. You know, so when you open a door in Fatal Frame, it's rendering to try to get into the next area, but because of like the suspense and everything, it's like, all right, is something going to pop out? Am I going to have to take a picture right when the door opens? What am I going to do? And it's just this tension that you have every time that you open a door. They also had these beautiful courtyards that have these cherry blossoms in them, but they mix that beauty with the freakiness of the scares that you get. And the one cutscene that I'm telling you about was in one of those courtyards. And just like seeing like the gorgeous, like everything going on, and the times where it would switch from like a full color to like a septicolor because you're trying to do something, or the dolls and how all of the dolls are just lined up and like something will change on one of the dolls and you knew that's what you had to go to. And like when I was started playing the new game, it's like I had to remember what I had to do for the other two games and be like, oh crap, when I do open a door, sometimes I have to get the camera right up, because I'm missing one of those things that you need to get the points.
Yeah, your obvious weapon at the ready, a camera.
And with the new one, it's not a camera anymore. Like, it's not just a camera. You have a camera and a flashlight, depending on which character you're playing.
Which is what they wanted to do the first time, and what other games have done since then. But they were
correct.
They were afraid at the time people wouldn't be able to handle it.
Correct, and it was a lot of this using the idea with like old school, like Japanese folklore, where a picture can take a person's soul. And that's a huge Japanese folklore that people forget about, nowadays. But that was the whole premise of the game, was we're not going to use a gun. We're not going to use a typical weapon. We're going to use this little piece of Japanese folklore, and we're going to change that into your weapon for you.
Can't shoot a ghost.
It's like, and you just sit there, and some of those ghosts, like to this day, that the one with the eyes. So the cutscene, and spoiler, I don't know if you guys do spoiler alerts.
It's been a couple decades. The statute of limitations is up. Go for it.
The statute of limitations. So the cutscene is that you keep hearing, why can't I see anything? What's wrong? And you just hear my eyes, over and over and over again. And I'm sitting here like, what do you talk about? And then all of a sudden, the jump scare is her. You see just her head coming around a corner. And then all of a sudden, she's floating with her head twisted and blood dripping down her eyes going, and she comes right at you. And it's like, and then a boss fight starts, and it's just like, pause, throw controller, I'm done.
So I want to ask. So that brings up, because you talk about a lot of the folklore. Mm-hmm. Sorry, again, that's where I guess my Philly comes back into this. I can't say the word folklore properly.
No, not at all.
But yeah, again, I say you can sympathize.
Yeah.
So when you turn this game on, I want to kind of backtrack here, and you talk about the folklore and everything else that goes with it. You turn this game on, and what does the title screen say on it besides Fatal Frame? Do you remember? There's one thing it says on there.
I forget what it is.
Based on a true story. It says Preston.
And it's really interesting because, like, what a lot of people don't know is that, like, my grandfather was in World War II and the Korean War. So we always had this, like, a little bit of passion and love for, like, the Eastern cultures, right? We never had, like, that. So growing up, we always understood, like, okay, like this. And then I loved anime. I love the video games and everything. So I was like, oh, a Japanese game, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, let's scare the living crap out of the 20-year-old and try to figure out what it is. But it's like, it's so interesting because each one is kind of based on a true story, like all of them.
Yeah, like a murder that happens somewhere, a
murder
location
that
where
happened,
something terrible happened.
Something happens. Yeah. Like the new one that it is, it's more of an island, where things were going on. And that is based on a idea of what happened on a small Japanese island. But it's not what happened, but they took bits and pieces of the story and made it into this huge, like, just horror.
Just enough to be able to say, based on a true story, and just for those folks who may be just so inclined to nudge them and a little bit more anxiety, a little bit nervousness, push them just enough.
And it's a great marketing tactic, because you have someone like me that is like, I don't watch scary movies. Well, I don't watch movies at all, but I don't watch scary things. I like watching Ender play scary games, but I won't play them myself. Fatal Frame is the only one that I will play. I will not do Resident Evil. I will not do Silent Hill. I will not do any of those. Like, I will play Phasmo with them, but I am with somebody.
There's no escort mission in Fatal Frame for you.
There's no escort mission.
Has he played this? Because there's no flamethrower. There's no
flamethrower. I don't
fire.
think
nothing
no
go
fire,
boom. No
explosions, nothing like that. No, but he and I kind of do the same thing where it's like, if I'm playing a game that he's interested in, he will watch me, and vice versa. If he's playing a game that I'm interested in, I will watch him play. And it's interesting because it kind of segues into my second game. That's the first game that he watched me play all the way through.
All right, so before we make that transition, I have one other question to ask, and I apologize because you had a perfect transition there that I've ruined. I'm sorry.
It's fine.
I just spent an episode. Again, this will have been like 4 episodes now, but I just spent an episode without Ray, and I was getting out hosted by the guest, where they were just making my transitions for me. I was getting railed by a pro there.
What happens when I'm with Ender as well?
So yeah, Mr. On like 7 podcasts a week himself is
almost, and one more that we're about to start.
Yeah, that's what I said. You guys are working on that too. Yeah, we can swing back.
We can swing back.
We'll swing back on that. The question I was going to ask though, so this was the first game that brought you back into the adult world of gaming, the post, playing Mario as a kid, getting you into this. What was the game after this?
The game after this was right after this, I decided that I didn't want to be at the college that I was at anymore. And I came back home. And I started working at GameStop. Because my best friend was a manager at the time. And I would have to say the next game that really caught my attention, that made me not want to put it down, is actually an honorable mention of mine, which is Final Fantasy Tactics Advanced.
All right, save it. See, you know what? I should have just let it go, Ray. I screwed up. I should have. She had the transition. It was there. Now I have to leave my entire screw up things. It's not going to make any sense. And
let's transition from Japanese classic Luigi's Mansion. I mean Fatal Frame. Sorry.
Whoa! No,
Luigi's Mansion had a flashlight
and a vacuum. That was much more that was a much more of an offensive game than.
And Pop Ghost too. That baby was terrifying. First of all. So first of all, that's as scary as I'm gonna play too. I'm not gonna play this Fatal Frame stuff. The fact that we had to talk about it twice in a row. I don't know where they show up when we actually put the recordings out, but talking about that game twice in a row, that's already enough for me as it is. So we move on from there to dystopian classic BioShock. I love this game, but would you kindly explain why this is game number 2 on the list?
BioShock is the first game that I actually played start to finish without actually putting it down. Like Fatal Frames and all that, like I took breaks where I would play the game, put it down for a couple of months, come back to it, put it down for a couple months. BioShock is the very first game that I played start to finish within probably a week. And it's also the first trilogy that I played all 3 games start to finish.
I was going to say, so you've played 2 and 3 as well.
I have.
Is this more like a series thing, or are we really like focusing in on this first one?
I think for the reason it's in my top 3 is the first game is because the first game is what made me be so excited for the other ones. It's not my favorite. But it's just, it was that game that I was just like, I know that if there is a sequel, I will be playing the sequel. And I know that any game in this series, I will play it. And I will say BioShock Infinite is my favorite. I have the Songbird, the collector's edition Songbird of everything. But it just happened to be, once again, like a kind of dystopian horror game, but not horror. It's more like, oh my god, things are coming out and I know what they are. With Fatal Frame, it was just like, I don't know what you are. And I don't think this is going to work for me right now. But it's also the only game where I almost threw my controller because of a twist in a game. Not because it scared the living crap out of me, but because when the twist of the game came through, I literally put the controller down, went over to the liquor cabinet and grabbed a shot of whiskey, took the shot of whiskey, and then came back to the game.
So I mean, okay, let's start there. You know, this game's been out long enough.
You can you can do it again. Statute of limitations is up.
Right.
Go for it.
Statute of limitations. Would you rather?
Right.
Or not? Is it would you rather? Or would you kindly?
Would you kindly? So you know, you're playing. You've fought against the big daddies. You've saved the little sisters. You find all of them, and they're you know, that kind of like that orphanage that they're all being kind of taken care of. And then it's like, oh no, by the way, the game's not actually over yet. There's a whole other section. Right.
It was just that. It was one of those times that, and I was living in Philadelphia at the time with my best friend, and I was going to school. I was working at GameStop. I was like the whole nine, and I can just remember just sitting there nonstop. Like if I was not doing homework, if I was not at work, if I was not at school, I was playing this game. And I literally just kind of like once again, like Fatal Frame almost, there's details, like the very first part of the game where you go in and you see the woman looking at the baby carriage, you know, and looking at that and seeing it's not a baby, but it's the gun, you know, in the baby carriage. Or the fact that I restarted the game because I attempted to take the stuff from the little sisters, and I decided I could not do that because I was like, no, daddy, don't do that. No. And it's like, okay, no, absolutely not. We are not going to do that. We are going to restart, and we're going to save these little girls because I don't need to hear that. Unlike Ender, who's just like, I will take all this stuff. You know? But it's just, when it came to that point in the game and you're doing everything and you hear him say, would you kindly? And then all of a sudden you hear that's the twist. You think back to everything that you did and you heard and you go, oh,
every questionable thing you did.
Everything that you did was
came
just
right
kind
after
of like
he asked.
Right after. And then you kind of sit there and you go, and then when you play 2, you're like, okay, what's going to be the twist on this? And then when you play Infinite, what's the twist in this? And the twist, like when I say like that twist in Infinite that happened with Booker and Elizabeth, blew my mind. And it's just like, they know that the players are going to be looking for something, but the game developers and the story writers for this knew how to implement it into the game to make you still guess. And that, I think, is genius writing on that whole team. That whole team just knowing that because it takes a special someone to know that your people that are going to be playing this game are looking because of game 1, and you're still going to surprise them in 2 and 3. Good job for you guys, because you did your job right.
Yeah, because everyone's searching. It's like, all right, what's the phrase? You know, let me play the whole game, paying attention every time I make a big decision. You know, what happened before my big decision. And it just sneaks in there. It's like, right? It's like the fourth thing you would have thought of. And it's like I never even made it there.
It's kind of like, and especially with Booker and Elizabeth, it's like they didn't do a phrase, they didn't do anything like that. But the twist is just like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, how did you think to do that? You know, and for me, when a game can do that and can keep my attention through an entire series, just to me, that's great production from an entire team and not just the developers, not that just because you're going from storyboard to your script to the creation of the game to getting it all out. So that entire team had to remember, okay, this is what we did in this game, but how are we going to make it better?
It's so philosophy. You said it right. The philosophy is you're gonna save all the little sisters, right? There will be no harvesting of the sisters.
I cannot it crushed my soul.
First of all, I couldn't do either.
It's like, no as soon as they started going, but daddy, no, daddy, I was like, ah, I can't do this to you. Like, full on, like, scream queen, like, crying my eyes out. That's like, nope. Back to Ender is just kind of like, harvest. I'm like, you're so mean.
I was the same way. I was like, I'll find. You know what? I'll get enough like this. This is how I'm gonna play the game and manage it.
We're gonna play the game. It's so funny because, and especially when it comes to game playing between Ender and I, a lot of people say we're like 80% the same person, but that 20% that we have is so different, you know? And he's just like the maniacal one that wants to like do this, and I'm the one that's like, let's go play a story, let's go have fun, this and that. So like watching the two of us do like the BioShock in two different ways really like kind of shows you the differences between our gameplay style when it comes to things. And it was very apparent, especially when I was playing Infinite, because Infinite's the game that he watched me play. And he watched me play it. So he goes, oh, I would have done it this way. And I was like, I know you would have, but no.
This is my game.
This is my game that I'm doing. Thank you very much, sir.
So, did you take the time to fight all the big daddies?
Yes.
You did.
I am a side quest human. I will be level 90 to go in a level 10 area. Don't tell me no. Like, I'm that person with the Pokemons that like, oh, I have to go to the first gym? No, I don't. I will have a level 99 team before I even start that. Like,
I just remember I hit a point where I was like, all right. I was like, because they're so much better.
Oh yeah.
Than me. The movement in that game. I mean, you are slow.
You're
so slow, and like the second big daddy you face is sprinting and like bouncing off walls.
Yeah, and
I was like, I can't. And you die over and over again along the way,
and over and over. And that was the whole thing that it was. It was like, I remember, like, I played God of War when back in the time, and I could never beat the final boss. You know, it took me 2 to 3 weeks to finally beat that boss in that game. And the way that I had to do it was I had to turn off the sound. And I turned off the sound in the game so I could concentrate on his pattern. Because when the sound was there, it was just like the sound was throwing me off. So as soon as I muted the sound after 3 weeks, it's like, I can't do this anymore. Like that. But it was kind of the same way with the Big Daddies. It's like, I learned what their strategies and their movements were. And it was that one time that I was like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do everything. And especially because, like you said, saving instead of harvesting, you get less stuff.
Yeah.
So you have to do everything that you can to get the most stuff that you need. So
I just struggle bust through the last like 38. I was like, all right, I did, my shotgun's pumped up. We'll just keep trying really hard until I make it to the end.
It's like you just sit there and you kind of go, all right, I'm here.
I was like, this is it. This is my level.
I'm
We're gonna
fine.
fight through this.
Yep.
Hey, all right, I have to talk about one more thing in this game
Mhm.
because it's a great. I love the game. Great game, right? One of the worst escort missions of all time.
100%.
I mean, it's like, all right, these, the little sister's been harvesting stuff all the time. It's like, oh, you need to escort this one, and she's gonna take her sweet time.
And it's so funny because when you go to Infinite and you get Elizabeth, she is like the perfect escort mission. It's like they fixed it. And I was just like, you understood. Like, you heard the crap
pain.
that we had to do in one. Do not do this to us in the later games.
Was that the last bad escort mission too? I feel like BioShock, the first one.
Yes.
I feel like games kind of got it after that.
Did they figure it out? I mean, you're sitting there, and they just keep sending people at you.
And the other thing is like, it's not even that the reason that she's moving slow made sense. It was just moving slow. And you just kind of like walk back, come here. Walk back, go a little further. And I think it was that time, like, because I believe around then it was when everybody was just like, you can't do this. You can't do this to us anymore. Kind of. But as soon as, like I said, and they fixed it in Infinite, especially with Elizabeth. And how she didn't become, because you did have to escort her, but she also became like almost like a co-worker with you during it. Like a non-controlled co-player, in a sense. But they did so well when you escorted her to her next place. She actually followed you and kept up to speed with you and gave you ammo or money or anything like that that you needed throughout her escort mission. And it was such a joy to do that after going, because like you sit there and you're playing the game and you're just like one of those, and you kind of sit there and then you get to, because you remember clear as day one's escort mission, which was horrific. And you go to that one, it was just great. And it's so funny because it's like, it is 100% night and day on it.
And on a note of sequels fixing things, let's move on to game number 3. Persona 5, which is the 6th game in the series, because as we all know, no video games just don't know how to count. It doesn't matter what series it is. Assassin's Creed is 1, 2, Revelation. I'm missing one, something, Revelations, and then 3. And Persona 5 is the 6th game in the thing here.
Ray's still looking for Goat Simulator 2.
I'm still looking for it.
Yeah, Goose Goose Duck. You need that one too.
And so here's the extent of my Persona knowledge. I know Joker exists, and I know there's some character named Arson, and that's it. That's the extent, because they ended up in Super Smash Brothers. I think this is the first time we're even talking about the Persona series on the podcast, I think, unless Dan remembers another one.
No,
So
weirdly
right?
enough, we've never gotten further than maybe somebody mentioning it.
Right, and it's not like an obscure series.
It's a
been around-
commitment of a series. It's a commitment of a game.
So give the podcast, you get to be the one to give the podcast the description of what Persona is.
So Persona is a game where you are a character and something happens to your character where you have to go into a new town, right? And you don't really know anybody or anything, and you're trying to make your way in. And then something glitchy happens and you go into a matrix type thing of a world. And it's basically a dreamscape. And you have yourself and then your dream self, or this metaverse kind of human that you can go into and fight these bad guys to fix the real world, you know? My foray into it was Persona 5. Persona 5 was the first game that I played, and then I played 3 and 4. And because I fell in love with 5 so much, I had to play the other ones, and I had to whip out the old Vita to get one of them. So it's like, okay, I'm not waiting for this to come out on PlayStation. We're playing it on the Vita, like one of those. And in 5, you are Joker. You can name your character whatever you want, but you have that one. You call him Joker. He basically has a criminal record because he stopped a high power official from assaulting a woman. And the official basically said, I'm not at fault. This kid assaulted me, you know? And the girl that he was protecting sided with the bad guy. So he no longer can be in his town, and he has to go live with his uncle. And then it turns out that when he's going to his new school, the dreamscape happens. He gets an app on his phone that he can't delete. And his first two friends get trapped, or his first friend gets trapped in this, like, metaverse world with him, that they're like, I thought we were going to school, but this isn't the school. And that's where they find what's going on, and it just kind of doesn't make sense until it makes sense. And there is a deck building into it, in a sense, where you can pick up different cards or different enemies in which you can have fight for you. And those cards are used to battle the other ones. And you can actually merge cards to make better cards. But you can only do it in the dreamscape. And then as you're going through, your friends and everything that you pick up become part of the metaverse, and they become part of this. But you're technically destroying these dream worlds of these corrupt humans to change their hearts, like their physical heart, like, and how they think about themselves in the real world. And then once you defeat their, like, alter ego, is when that dreamscape disappears and they turn themselves in. And you're basically trying to end a corruption that's happening. But the weird thing with Persona 5 is, like, you start at the end of the story. Like, you're kind of getting this thing where he's in a jail cell. He's been caught doing these things, and he's being interrogated. And the prosecutor, she's like, remember what happened. You gotta tell me all the details. Because if you don't tell me the details, I'm not going to be able to help you. And that's when you start playing from the back. And then I would say, like, 2/3 of the way through the game, you finally catch up to where you were at the beginning, and then you finish the game. So, but again, one of those games. Could not put down, always wanted to play it, just hyper focused into it. And it made me want to play, like, the entire series. And just, it's one of those games where if somebody tells me there's a Persona 6 coming out, I will be the first in line to get it. I love the gameplay. I love the idea of day, midday, evening, because it does split into that. So you can do things such as romance people. Greatest thing in a video game ever. You must romance people. You can study or do crafts or work out or something to build up your stats at part of the day. And then you can use another part of the day to go fight in the dreamscape. But you have a time limit of when you have to try to kill the boss of a certain thing. So you have to kind of, all right, I have 26 days. If I do it in 26 days, okay. If I take 20 days and I build up my stats, for the 20 days, okay, I can do the 6 days and I can try to get through. And I can try to finish the. And once again, as a Pokemon trainer, that first gym, I'm still level 99. I'm going to try to build my stats up, and be that person that is like, all right, I'm going to go into this and I'm going to kick your butt. I'm not going to. You have no choice in the matter. Or, as I will say, I don't like games that are difficult to play. Don't give me a Super Meat Boy. Do not give me Elden Ring. Do not give me anything like that. If I'm going to play a game, I'm playing it on baby mode, where it is the easiest way, and don't kill me every 3 seconds. So that's usually the first thing I do. Is there an easy mode? Perfect.
Let's talk about the transition, because you played 5 and you loved it so much that you go and play 3 and 4. Did you notice any sort of like really big gameplay improvement from 3 all the way to 5, or is it consistent enough that it didn't take away playing kind of the previous entries?
Only big difference that I had seen is the graphics themselves. Because you're going from a Vita game. You have the Vita game, and you have that. Like, when I attempted to play, like, the very first Persona, that was, like, I think on the PlayStation, I couldn't. Just the movement and everything on it just made it almost impossible for me to play. It's kind of like, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild was my first foray into Legend of Zelda. And if I tried to go play the original Zelda, I'm just like, no, I don't want to do this. Like, this is not my thing. And I felt that way with 1. When I did 3, it was literally just a graphics thing. And I feel like with 3 and 4, it was more like, okay, we're updating graphics. Or updating the ability to trigger, like a point, like a special thing that you needed to do in a game. In 5, they made it a lot easier to lock on to things, or lock on to when you have to go into a new area. 3 and 4, it was very like you had to be very pinpoint. And if you weren't at that exact pixel, if you weren't in that exact space, it would take you forever to find it. And I can remember in one of them, it was like in the town or something, you had to go up a hill and you had to finish this one thing, and it said it was right here. But it took me almost like 3 hours to figure it out because it wouldn't lock on to this one specific point. And moving into 5, it wasn't as bad. And I think that kind of made me annoyed when I was playing 3, because I was like, well, this is stupid. I should be able to find this. It's right here. But then it's like you have to backtrack in your head and go, oh, wait, I'm playing an earlier version of this game. They probably didn't have the technology or anything like that at that point to, like, do that. And it had to be, like, it's like a specific hitbox. And that hitbox was very small in that sense. Where nowadays they can say, okay, here's the hitbox. If you get in that, it like lights up. And it's really nice and pretty. And they're like, ooh, here it is. Like, thank you. So it was, I think, the way that it works and the way that the Persona games are, there wasn't much change in that aspect. It's more of how they were able to take the technology and make improvements to how you played the game and the gameplay itself.
Let's talk battle system. And Dan probably has a different perspective than I do on this, just because he plays turn-based games and I don't. When I watched it, that battle system, seeing a fight looked really overwhelming with like the amount of options you have, along with the art style, because it's that it's that video game anime art style that like games try to really pull off, and this one does it well because they kind of it almost looks hand drawn and cell shaded, which gives it this really cool look to it. But how's dealing with that? Because I looked at it and I was like, "There's 7 options right now. I don't know what I'm supposed to press here." And they use every single button on your controller.
Oh yeah, they do. But I am a turn-based human. Like I love turn-based games. Like you give me old school Final Fantasy, like 10, things like that. That's the type of gameplay I like. But when you're playing through it and you're playing like a specific character, like you've got these characters and they're a specific class in a sense. So you've got your healer, you've got your ranged, you've got your brawler, and you've got your psychopath. I mean, you've got all of those. And you learn, and it is a trial and error when it comes to fighting new bosses, new areas, to figure out who you're going to use. But it also becomes that you find your best weapon, or you find your best cards, and you hold on to those, and you make them better. And you just go, okay, this is my next thing, right? But because I like that system, because I like turn-based games, I do Civ 5, you know, Fire Emblem, Final Fantasy Tactics. Like, I loved those types of games. This game just felt natural for me to play, you know? And when you find a game like that you like, it doesn't seem as difficult going into it. For someone who doesn't play turn-based games, you're probably looking at it like, well, this doesn't make sense. But for me, I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to either attack them, I'm either going to heal, I'm either going to hold, I'm either going to defend, or I'm going to bring out my card that's going to wipe you out the next turn. You know? And Dan and I get it, because that's what we're used to playing. You know, but Ender looks at it and goes, no. Like, the only turn-based game that he's ever played with me is Gloomhaven. Like, he's finally getting into Baldur's Gate, which is like a turn-based too, but he watched me play Persona 5, and he was just like, interesting. I'll watch it for the story.
I was like, you named like 5 different options of what you're gonna do, and I was like, you've already said too many things for me. Like, I press one button to jump and the other one to slash sword.
Yeah. Well, like, it's kind of like you have to know what the enemies are doing too, because if you know the enemies are charging up, you know, to make like a big hit, but they're not going to hit you. Okay, I have 3 turns before they're going to smack me hard. You know, let me get my damage in for the first 2, and then hold and defend on my 3rd one. So when he goes to hit me, he's not going to hit me as hard. You know, and it's like like that strategy, that real-time strategy. So it's like me, like when I started playing Fall Guys on Wednesday with you guys, of going, good luck. Like, I don't know what I'm doing.
What
did
like, you people get me into?
It's like, and for me, it's like, I don't play those games. I play single player games, you know, and now all of a sudden I'm now playing Fall Guys with you, and I'm going, oh, okay, I think this works.
First of all, you were one blast ball away from winning on your first
hey,
game.
I didn't tuck it in.
I don't want to hear, yeah, exactly. I don't want to hear this whole like,
oh, no. I ran around like a chicken with my head cut off so that nobody could hurt me. And then I was just like,
that's strategy. That's what Ray calls it. He calls I run around clockwise in one direction.
That's what I do.
No,
let's talk about the other half of the game to finish it, because it's watching your streams. Like I know the game has an entire like social sim.
Oh yeah.
Side to it, and I would think like, oh, this is like gamerv is gonna like enjoy this kind of stuff. Do you feel like does the game do a good job creating kind of like backstories for the other characters that make you like, I want to know what's going on with these guys?
So what's really cool is that each area or each dreamscape that you go into links to a character that's being affected by that dreamscape. So like the first one is a Oh, I can't even think of his name. You've got Joker, and you've got. Now I have to pull up the. Please forgive me.
It's a 100-hour minimum game. It's it's not easy
Right.
to remember.
I can't. I'm like sitting here, and I'm just like So it's Ryuji. So he actually that's the first one. He's like the bad boy of the group, but his persona, that is his awakening, is called Captain Kidd. And the first dreamscape that you go into is the person that affected his life in the real world, right? And you find out why it's affecting him and what happened. And then it also brings in Anne. And you figure out what happened with Anne. And it's giving, so each dreamscape gives you the background of someone that's coming into your party. So it's kind of like they made it so that you have to care about the characters because you have to know about their story in order to beat the dreamscape. And the other thing is and you said the social aspect of it is you'll get NPCs that will help you throughout. Like you'll get a doctor, right? And what happened with this doctor and why are they now willing to help you? And you find out about that story. Or you got a shopkeeper or the cafe owner that is your uncle. They're NPCs that will help you, but they also have a background of why they're helping you. And you can romance a bunch of them, like a detective or the doctor or the newscaster or something. So learning about what they're trying to do and why you're trying to romance them or why you want them to be on your team is a really cool way of introducing the different characters and the different players into the game for you.
And now let's move on to the honorable mentions. We finished those top 3 games, and we're going to talk about the one game on this list. Well, no, that's not true. But this is the out there game, for obvious reasons to us, but maybe the people who are listening may not know this. Team Fortress 2, first one of the honorable mentions. And when we had Ender Phoenix on, obviously he told us the whole story on behind Team Fortress 2 and going to the conventions, and cosplaying and the proposal and all that. But I mean, I want to hear it because I'm sure not everyone who's listening now may have listened early on. I want to hear your side of I just want to hear your version of the Team Fortress 2 story.
Well, it's really what he said, which is it's the first game when we first started dating that we played with together. And it was because Edna and I had met on a online on the internets on a dating site for nerds, right? It was like people who liked video games and cosplay and anything like that. We lived in 2 different states at the time, and it was the one way that we could connect when we couldn't really do because we both worked retail. You're never going to be able to figure out great times to always see each other. But the more that we hung out and the more that we were together, the more it just kind of integrated into our lives. And the first convention we went to, I went as the soldier and he was the pyro, because it was the first time that we did something like that. And then he's just worked on his pyro costume and I suck at the game. It's I'm lucky that I can actually play and not die 50 times more than everybody else, But it was just a game that introduced me to his friends as well, who are still our friends to this day. And I fear that he is in a relationship with those guys more than he is with me sometimes. So, I sit there and I'm like, well, you've been playing the game with the guys for the last 4 hours. I have not seen you. Dinner is ready. Would you like to eat? One of those. But it was a great game that allowed us to build our relationship on something that we both loved, which was video games.
So you cosplay as soldier. Now, is that do you always play a soldier when you play the game?
No. It was the easiest costume that I could come up with in a week. Honestly, because I had my dad was a Marine, so I had his old helmet. I had already had black pants and a red button-down shirt for work because GameStop. And all we had to do was paint like a Nerf gun and make the things, and that was it. And it was an easy cosplay for me, and then it just reminded me my love for cosplay because it's only increased since then. The last cosplay that I did was a humanoid version of Tinkaton from Pokemon, and I actually built the hammer, the huge hammer that Tinkaton has, and I used that for New York Comic Con last year. So it was like reminding me, oh yeah, I remember how to cosplay. But no, I was always a heavy when I was playing, and I was just like, I am like, if we're playing games like that, I'm going to be the big guy that's going to smack you with something. So like when we play Monster Hunter, I have a hammer, and I'm just like, I'm going to get every hammer in this game, I'm going to beat your face in. Like, and that's it. Like, I'm that person. Like, I am the atypical, like, let's be a healer. No, I want to be up in your face and I want to smash you with something. And that's kind of what the heavy felt like for me. It's just like, all right, I'm going to stand here. You're going to give me healings and I'm going to go. And that was it. But
do you two still play? There's just so many games these days.
He will pick it up like once a month. I don't think I've touched that game. Like, if I look at my Steam list right now, I don't think Team Fortress 2 is going to be like, oh, Half-Life. Well, that's good. Yeah, we're looking at somewhere between 2014. Oh, no, 2017. There you go. It's the last time I played. Yeah, I like when I tell you that I get like my hyper focus on a game, it's over for anything else in my life.
Let's transition now. We're going to transition to, let me check my notes here, Fire Emblem. I didn't want to clarify which Fire Emblem game. I wanted to just kind of see.
Which one, Dan?
It's just Fire Emblem. And the reason I say that is everything up to Engage happens to be a great Fire Emblem game.
Yeah, and you've got questions for all those, right?
I have a lot of questions. First of all, how dare you? I'm sorry, that was just for Ray. I want to ask, where did this start then? Because these were games, just to be, for anybody not aware, these were games that were not available. I often reference the RPGs that Japan kept from us for many years. We only got the first Fire Emblem game in 2020, maybe officially released for the Switch. So it wasn't until the 2000s when several games in the series had already been out that this came here. So that's why I want to ask, how did you find your way into this?
So mine was actually on the 3DS, which was Fire Emblem Awakening. Then you also had Birthright and it was like a
the
duel.
Names all run together for that's part of the problem. Like there's like Blazing Blade, there's
There, but it was, so Fire Emblem was on the 3DS for me, and it was Conquest, and you bought each one and you could be a different family on each one. And it's that RST aspect of it, the real-time strategy. But it had this RPG-style storytelling that I loved, right? Including, you could marry characters and they could have kids that became characters that you could play. To the point where I had a spreadsheet, on an Excel spreadsheet, to tell me which characters would have to be romanced to give me certain characters. And I would do that on my spreadsheet because that's how much I got into it. And it just, ever since I played that first one, that Birthright and the Conquest, it was nonstop. And then we got to Fire Emblem Engage, and then I got mad.
Did you play, so you played Three Houses in the midst of that?
Yes. I played the Three Houses, which I loved that game. And I loved it, I think, because it gave me a taste it still gave me my romance options. It still gave me the ability to run around and be must find everything in the school kind of thing.
A lot of socialization in that game, yes.
A lot of socialization, and then all of a sudden, and I think that's why I had such a difficult time with Engage, is because they took everything that I loved about the game and they took it out, in a sense.
They helped me out because they focused on the battles. Yeah.
They dumbed it down on me. And it's the same thing that happened with Final Fantasy 16. They dumbed it down. And it's why I despise 16.
Are you talking about Kingdom Hearts 3.5?
No, I'm talking about Final Fantasy.
I can't think of a good joke because once they started turning to the Kingdom Hearts.
Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah.
Dude, Kingdom Hearts did not stay on my list because I couldn't even finish 3.
I saw the gameplay for 16 and I was out. I still want my turn-based RPG. I played 15 was just amazing to me. I loved 15 since it wasn't so different that it changed it. 16 just, and the best way that I can say it is they dumbed the game down. They just dumbed it down. Hit thing with sword.
Like, hit thing with sword, you don't have an open area anymore. Your areas that you go into are like the size of a shoebox.
Yeah, it's got that hall shooter type of thing to it almost effectively.
No, yeah. and that's why. But I mean, it's kind of, but Fire Emblem, like, when they talked about Engage coming out, my best friend and I, Kalai, were so excited for this game. We're like, Fire Emblem, we call it horny chess, right? That's basically what it is.
That's not an unfair description.
No, it's horny chess. Like, that's all it really is. And they took out my horny chessness. And I was like, I'm done. I can't play this game anymore. And we got so angry at it. Like, and I tell Ender this all the time. It's like, last year for video games hurt my heart so bad because the 3 games that I wanted so badly turned out to be so bad.
The irony of that is overwhelming. What are the 3?
Name the 3 games.
So, Fire Emblem Engage, Final Fantasy 16, and the Story of Seasons that came out that was the remake of the original. That was...
Yeah, for anybody not familiar, that was Harvest Moon back in the day.
Harvest Moon in the day, and they went to remake it, and it was the worst remake ever.
Yeah, it was another one of those translation things where it was always the Story of Seasons overseas, but they called it Harvest Moon over here for reasons.
And then they redid it, but like, not a huge Legend of Zelda fan.
The best year of gaming that any of us can remember, you're 0 for 3.
And I'm 0 for 3 because I don't do the Spider-Mans. I don't really do the Legend of Zeldas. I don't do the Horizon Zero Dawn.
But do you do the Pikmins? You gotta do the Pikmin 4. Come on. Too stressful. The timer gets you too much.
I was so distraught for so long that I actually just said, I'm done. I don't want to play a game right now. Like, I literally put games down for, I think, 2 months. And I was just like, I'm going to play my stupid little mobile games that I play every day. And I'm going to diamond paint and I'm going to cross stitch. And that's it. And I'm not touching anything else because everything's been a disappointment.
I remember those 2 months. I watched.
Yeah, because your streams didn't involve games.
They didn't involve any kind of games. It was just like, I'm going to put these diamonds where they're supposed to be.
The happy little diamonds Bob Ross aspect of it was gone. There's a little underlying tension.
There was a tension of like, I hate Fire Emblem and I hate this stupid game. Like,
that's rough too, because Engage was one of the first games of the year. It was January. It was like right off the bat.
And it was just like, I love the fact that they gave the protagonist a voice. You know, that is something that I enjoyed. Like, there are certain aspects of the game that I really liked. You know, I finished it. As much as I hated it, I finished it, you know? But what they did wrong is and like I said before, the only thing that I can say is they dumbed it down too much. Oh, hello, sir. We are back. Hello.
Guest is back. Hey,
Yes, he does this thing where he just saunters and he's like, I have a mission and you pet me and I'm gone.
Yeah, mine's just a lump on the couch behind me, so she's all good. So I was going to ask two things. Thing one, death permanence, which was something they gave you the option of taking away at some point in the series. Like for Three Houses, you could take away permadeath, but from the beginning of the series was a factor. How have you handled permadeath through the course of your time with the series? Character, for anybody not familiar, this isn't like Final Fantasy, I'll reference again, where a character goes down, Aerith and Seven aside, you can use a Phoenix down if they're knocked out in battle and bring them back in. Fire Emblem, your character goes down in battle, that's it. They are done, they're out of the story, they're kaput. So outside of your main character, who if they get whacked, then game over. But anybody else, they're done. So how have you handled that through the course of the series, since you are so engaged in the social aspect?
I never played a game that didn't have the option to take it off.
And did you play it that way? No judgment. No judgment-free zone.
Remember that whole baby mode where if I find an easy version of a game, that's what I'm going to play?
Fair enough. The other question I had, so you probably have not gone back and played I was curious, you went back and played the first one, which did become available officially in 2020.
I did the very first game when we have every freaking system in this household, but we have the PlayStation Mini. Persona was on that. I got through 10 minutes of that game and said no thank you.
Yes, yeah. So the first Fire Emblem, you probably have your eyes bleeding. It would be like going back to The Legend of Zelda versus Breath of the Wild.
I will not play it. And I can't, and that's, now I have cat hair in my mouth.
All right, well, maybe Fire Emblem will have heard you, because that was in a year of Epic Games. It was one that went by the wayside, so.
It did for me. Like I said, the games that came out that everybody thought were the best games, I can see why. They just happen to not be the games that I would play.
No, your husband's strapping flamethrowers to machines still and doing robot battles. He's still rolling with Armored Core 6.
Yeah, he does that with Armored Core. He still does that with the new Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. He will strap flamethrowers onto something with rockets and
as the goddesses of Hyrule intended, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and that's fine. But it's not the game, I want to play it, but when I was so excited for these 3 other games, since it's not like a thing like Spider-Man or something like that for him, Horizon, another one for him. Horizon's one that I watch him play. It's The Last of Us as I watch him play as well. But it's they're not the games that I'm going to play. I'm not going to play Spider-Man. I'm going to watch him play it. I'm not going to play Horizon.
The game list you ran down, they're just movies. That's all. They're movies.
They are. And that's what it is. And for me, but it's just one of those things, like I said, that my inability to play the games that I wanted to play because of how bad the games were just destroyed the year for me.
Well, let's go back in time then. Let's stick with real-time strategy, but let's move to Final Fantasy Tactics Advance. So not the Final Fantasy Tactics that was on the PlayStation, not the PS1. We don't want to call it that and get Ray riled up. We would never do that to Ray.
Nope.
But
they did release the PS1. They did release the PS1, but the original was the PlayStation.
I'm just going to cut his audio track out of that one. That's going to screw. But anyway,
words matter, Dan. Words matter.
So this was the Final Fantasy Tactics game they released for the Game Boy Advance. Now I'm going to go back because we referenced this way back when we talked about Fatal Frame, that this was your follow-up game to Fatal Frame. So we're going to start there. We're going to bookend this conversation.
This was a follow-up game that I had that reminded me how much I loved video games. Of course I worked at GameStop. Of course I played other games. Of course I got pissed off at Microsoft and Xbox for telling me Fable was going to be on par with Final Fantasy. And because it's not.
It's entirely different. It's not I like having like the first couple of Fables. They're good.
I like them.
They're not the same. They're not the same thing. They're more akin to Final Fantasy 16 than they are. Yeah.
Oh yeah, nowadays, yeah. But I had the baby sky blue Game Boy SP, like the one that
the little square, the squarish one that flipped
square
open.
One that you could, because I couldn't get a pink one, so I needed a baby blue one, and it matched the color of my car at the time, which was even better. Which was it was like a Mercury Tracer wagon that was light blue, like a blue color, and it was that game that I would have playing on my SP, and as I was driving to work, if I got to a stop, like a red light, I would do a turn. And then I would go wait for like a stop sign or a red light and do a turn.
Or traffic in the greater Philadelphia area.
Which means I was
play 3 hours of the game.
Yeah, because I was right on Red Lion Road.
You were in the Northeast then. Yes.
I was in the Northeast, and it's like I'm on Red Lion and Knights Road, and that's where my freaking. I had one that was right by the Franklin Mills Mall,
which will never be the other name it has. It's always the Franklin Mills Mall. It will never change.
Franklin Mills Mall, because that was right on Street Road in Knights, and if you went down that way, and I was the manager at that one, and then there was one on Red Lion Road, where the
by the Best Buy and all that.
Yeah, that area. Like if you took Chicky and Pete's, but you came up that road, and then you hit Red Lion.
Right, to tie this together, this is all actually right where in Heavy Rain, where the end of that game happens.
There you go.
Is geographically in that same area of Philadelphia.
Yes.
That's how we brought that all back.
Because that's how I knew. That's how I knew in Heavy Rain, because where it was.
Because it's right near the old Nabisco factory.
Yeah, and where Whitman Samplers used to be. Right. Where the Whitman factory was. It was all there. So this all tracks right. So this is all video game related.
Here's it's like if you're thinking back in like Philly days, you've got the National Guard, you've got the and this is
then
all
you're out of the city. Then you get to the Murder Hotel. The Murder Motel.
You got the Murder Hotel, and then you also have the oh god, what was the name of the psych ward that was on Route 1?
I don't know that one. I'm sorry. I'm out of this. Ray's gonna lose his mind.
You're out. Okay. But it was like Philadelphia traffic is like stop and go. Like especially when you're trying to go on a Saturday to a GameStop, you know. But it was that type of game that as I was playing it, I could not put it down. You know, and I think that was really my foray into like real-time strategy games, where I could actually like make a decision like chess and like figure it out. And that's where like my deep love for those types of like strategy games came into play, was definitely Final Fantasy Tactics Advance. And that's, I think, what like definitely anything that I could find that was like that. So it brought me into the Fire Emblems. It brought me into other RTSs that I could play in the future. And I have vivid just watching Harry Potter at GameStop and playing Final Fantasy Tactics Advance. Like, that was it. That's
Well, I'm going to do another callback here, because we're moving into your future games now. We're going to talk about a couple of future games here. The first of which you're looking forward to is Judas. And for those who are unfamiliar, we talked about BioShock earlier. And Ken Levine, who was the kind of the auteur behind the BioShock series, he also contributed to things like Thief and System Shock 2. Those were all kind of his 90s run there before BioShock came into play and became his thing. This is the next game for them, which I can't... Ghost Story, I think, is the name of the company now. They were 2K and all the whatever the company. It's Ghost Story now. Whatever. Yeah. That's you can go down a wiki hole if you want to learn about that drama. But so he's going for space. You got a disintegrating starship. You've got steampunk vibes. You got creepy girl dolls or whatever they are. We're hitting all of his the Ken Levine punch card is filling up rapidly.
Yeah. Yes, cannot wait. And it's one of those things where I said like BioShock is that game, and anybody who worked on BioShock and you keep an eye on it is going to be on my radar. So with Judas, I can't wait. And I'm hoping, please don't hurt me like last year hurt me. Like, that's all I have to say. They're saying about March 2025 right now for this. So we're hoping, and we'll see. But I cannot wait for
whatever he's going to give you.
Whatever he's going to give me. I don't care. Like, just, oh, I cannot wait. Just don't hurt me. Don't break my heart.
Yeah, a lot of different color palette, but a lot of BioShock and space vibes to what I've seen so far.
Like, because like BioShock was more underwater, and they did the greens, the blues, and the yellows, kind of like the dull yellow in that sense.
Yeah, the bright, yeah.
And then like, but when you're in space, you have to hit the reds and you have to hit those oranges because of stars, you know. But it's that darker, like creepier reds and things, but it's just a cool vibe to it.
Yep, give me the next BioShock.
Give me my BioShock 4.
Now, the next one on your list is Monster Hunter Wilds, which is the Monster Hunter series coming on to next-gen consoles, probably, or at least rumored to be open world, more so than...
So more open world than the other ones were, and I know Ender probably discussed this a little bit on his, but each generation kind of switches. So, like, this game, the previous game was Switch, mobile, kind of like that thing. And so now this iteration of Monster Hunter is going on to, like, Steam and PlayStation 5 and Xbox. So, and then the game after that will most likely be Switch or whatever Switch 2 is.
Throw Nintendo their bone, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like each game does their own, like, it's, so when this team is done with this game, they're not working on the next game, they're working on 2 ahead.
Yeah, whatever the current gen, next gen console will be.
Correct. So that's what they're doing. And Monster Hunter is another one of those games that, like, it's that I will be really into it for like the first like 4 to 5 months, and then my new obsession will come out, and then I won't touch it, unlike Ender, who will always go back to the game because he doesn't get hyper focus. He gets more of the, well, I'm bored, let me go here. Monster Hunter is the one game that I do play with Ender a lot, and it's kind of like the couples game. That when it comes out for the iteration, like when the new one comes out, we now have, like, instead of being the Ender and the boys time, it's Ender Envy with the boys time. So I get to be the fifth wheel. It's gonna be fine.
Yeah, but the crowd understands it. That's the important part.
That's the important part. I can't wait to have a game like that again with him. You know, and like we do play games together. We do Gloomhaven right now on tabletop we actually have the Gloomhaven game now. So we have the Gloomhaven, and then we also do Pal World together, you know? But it's not like I can keep his attention on Pal World as much as it is for me, because I will sit there for 12 hours building a little thing, and he's like out in hour 2.
Yeah, you're building up your farming. You're just building your culture.
I'm making my conglomerate of pals, you know? It's going to be one of those where I know that I can hold his attention. And it'll hold my attention too. It's not like that, but I know that like we'll be able to play together for extended period of times, and it's not going to be like a once a week thing. It's going to be like we're playing every night, kind of. And I always look forward to a game series that we can do that together.
All right, now we're going to move into a question from the Channel 3 history books. We're not going to let you take your shots at Matt and come in here for the XP battle. Rather, we're going to pick a different quest for you to answer, which is, would you kindly? No, I'm just kidding. That's not it. I was going to ask you, who was your first Smash Brothers main? Because that's where, I mean, Ray and Ender had dad gaming time even back in the day of Smash Brothers. So we're going to ask you, who's your Smash Brothers main?
My Smash Brothers main, if I play, which is very rare, is Princess Peach.
Was that just a default back to you want that Nintendo pink vibe?
I was always like, if I played Mario Kart, if I played Mario Party, anything like that. I can remember Super Mario 3 with the doot, 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 like when you had to go up in her. I just loved like, and the new Peach game looks actually really cute. That's going to be coming out.
I'll tell you, I have not gotten to crack it yet. My daughter literally just burned this entire day.
Yeah.
Just relaxing and tearing through the game. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. It looks adorable, and it's something I do. I feel like that I like her more as a party character. Like a Smash or a Party or something like that. So that's why I'm kind of waiting to see.
I'll tell you, it is a cozier game. It is a much more relaxing game. She is much more in the Animal Crossing, Disney Dreamlight Valley. Like that's a lot. That's a lot more of her game style. Yeah. And this again, there's action to it, and like I had to kind of coach her through a couple of the platforming pieces, but there's nothing that intense with it. So it is a cozier. I was just surprised by the 10 and up rating on it, but I guess you give Peach a sword and that confused people or something.
Any type of video game violence is usually 10 and up.
Yeah, so unless you're just stomping on a anthropomorphized mushroom, that's okay. But
that's fine. But swords are actually real things.
But yeah, just check that out. Cozy, relaxing.
Yeah, but no, it's always just been that or Zelda. Like I want to be the princess because in real life I'm not very princessy. Jeans, t-shirt, you're lucky that you get that. Like, I have a very bubbly personality. We always say that Ender's very stoic. You've met Ender in real life.
That's I can vouch for 23 years of that. Yes, sir. Yeah, 22 years of that. Yeah.
Stoic. He's very like down to earth,
neutral,
concrete, neutral. Like he's the logical aspect of our relationship. Like he is 100% logic. I am helium and glitter. Like that's who I am, and it's just like you get around me, I'm like, "Hi, my name is V." But I'm bubbly, but I look very like not princessy because I don't like dresses. Like dresses and I just don't get along. And I think I want to emulate what a girl is supposed to be, or like what I never really was, like a princess, and that's why I choose like Zelda or Peach or something like that for my like when I play those games.
And the last question we asked everybody, what's been your favorite feature on Channel 3?
100% the quests. I when I can beat Ender for XP for a day. Look what I did. I beat you. Like that. And I'm the only one that does that. He never comes back and goes, I beat you. Like one of those. No, it's 100% on me. But right now, the two of us are trying to get the I feel lucky
Aren't we all?
One.
Aren't we
like,
all?
and I try, like, I'll do, if I know it, I'll do the I feel lucky for 2 or 3.
First two go to the I am lucky gods.
Yeah, I am lucky guess, but if I 100% know one right now, like when Pokemon Yellow was one like a week or 2 ago, right? I was just like, don't care, it's Pokemon Yellow, I'm getting it on the first try. Like that. And but it's so funny, like when I have to do Target, I don't know any of the games. None of them. And I'm just like, bloop, 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 just poking on things. And then Ender and I have 2 very different strategies when it comes to trivia. I will actually look at every game that is on there and memorize where they are. And I can usually figure it out within the first 2 to 3 words of the sentence, and I can find it. But then there's the ones where I'm like, I have no idea what you mean, so I just start pushing buttons. And yesterday's really pissed me off because I was on the phone and I was doing it and I knew exactly what it was. But it was giving me the error where I could tap on it on my phone but it wouldn't select it. And I had to restart the app for it to actually count.
Oh, I was trying to look at what yesterday's was, and I'm like, oh, okay. It was the League of Legends one. Yeah, I had nothing.
Oh
on that
no,
one.
what the Assassin's Creed one, was it yesterday or 2 days ago?
Oh yeah, that was a couple days ago. Yeah, that was in there.
It was the Assassin's Creed one. And I'm sitting there, and I knew immediately what it was, because when it says "jump off high," Assassin's Creed.
Oh yeah, that was yesterday. Yeah, that was yesterday. I'm sorry, it was like 2 days ago. Yep.
Yeah, so that was yesterday, and then I was like, and I'm hitting Assassin's Creed, but nothing was happening because I'm on my phone. I'm not on like the website, and I'm like on my phone, and I'm like, so I like shut it down, swiped up, like got rid of it, rebooted Channel 3, and it was just like, you got it at like 2 seconds. And I'm like, woo! Like one of those, like, I thought that I had screwed up, and it was just like I had, and it was just, there was a small glitch in the thing, and I'm like, no, I knew this one. The worst though is that I missed the Fatal Frame one. That was a couple months ago in the trivia. I missed it because I could not remember where the Fatal Frame was on the board. I was so mad. I was like, I know this.
I'm still mad about the Kingdom Hearts one that I didn't get right away.
Oh my gosh.
Drew basically warned me about it, and I still couldn't get it right.
Yeah, and it's just like, but it's so weird because, especially when it comes to like the app sometimes, and I know it's always a work in progress, but it's like I'm doing the trivia, so I'm like on my phone and I'm doing it, I'm like, all right, and I will forget to pull it down before I hit go, and then it just slightly shifts up and I can't see the answer, the question immediately. I'm like, no.
Or yeah, when there's like a certain wording, I have to scroll a little bit to get between the two, because I'm usually a phonesman for that. Yeah. Yeah,
and it's just like I get mad at myself all the time. I should
just wait till I get to a computer. I should just do it on
computer.
Yeah,
it's like I just should do this, because it's like I have Channel 3 on my like bookmarks here. I should be fine. Like,
there's an app on the PC even. I just
like one of those, and it's just like, oh god. But it's like, even like the PC, every so often I'm just kind of like, all right. Well, like, the maps when I'm on my PC are worse than they are on my phone when I have to do Target, because the maps, it won't shift to show me the map on my monitor. I have to scroll. And I think it's just because of the type of monitor that I have.
Yeah.
So,
gotta change that resolution.
Yeah, I've got to choose. Now it's pretty. Everything is pretty. Dude, everything that I have is literally like so girly. It's like I got the pink headphones, pink microphone, pink mic stand, pink desk, pink keyboard, pink. Like, it's like I live in pink world.
And and on the pink world note,
yeah,
we've made it to the end of another What Are You 3 podcast. Thank you, gamerv, for being here. You can find the podcast at c3.gg/podcast, dropping every Wednesday morning at 3:33 a.m. Eastern on all the major platforms, including Spotify, YouTube Music, and Apple. I'm Ray. Dan puts us all together. Our theme song by Castor Garden, and for our executive producer, Joel Willis. Have a good day, everybody.
Channel 3 is the future.